fadeaway with a hand in his face in the air for the win! Yes, sir! Garnett gives Minnesota the win at Target Center!
Towns rebound, lets it fly, and Karl Anthony Towns drills it at the buzzer! A catastrophic finish for the Grizzlies!
Welcome to the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast, your home for the best Wolves talk around.
Wiggins spots up there, deep threes, got it! He scores it at the buzzer to give the Timberwolves the victory!
Welcome in to another episode of the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I am joined by, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how you doing?
You know, about as good as a Wolves fan could be doing.
Right, that's a good point. That's a point. It's a thing I feel like we say every week, but it gets truer and truer every week. And we're also joined by Jared Good. Jared, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Like Chris says, as a Wolves fan can be right now. Like it's been rough sledding, but I'm doing well, and I got some talking points.
Okay, good, because we definitely have a lot to talk about. The Wolves week in general, not good. Definitely not good. And we'll talk about that. But what we got to start with, yes, by the way, we're recording this on Friday night, so the Wolves just got shellacked by Trae Young and the Hawks. We'll talk about that a little later. But what we got to start talking about is the absolute collapse against the Orlando Magic. When you think you finally have something going, you have a 19-point lead and you lead by double digits in the fourth quarter, and then it all gets away from you. And let's start with talking about the final sequence. So if you don't know, which you probably do, Aaron Gordon misses the three. The Wolves get the rebound, get the ball to Vanderbilt for some reason. I don't know whose thought process that was to pass the ball to Vanderbilt, but they get it to Vanderbilt. He misses two free throws up the court. Cole Anthony puts a dagger in our hearts. So let's start with you, Jared. Who is more to blame? Ryan Saunders for his handling of the end of the game, or Vanderbilt for missing the free throws, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, so it's absolutely a mix of both, and as a somebody that played the game and also coached the game, it's really frustrating to see something like that happen. Like when we get that rebound, there needs to be a timeout called. You can't have a 47% free throw shooter on the court in that situation without getting him subbed out. And that's on Saunders. And now if we're going to flip it to Vanderbilt, I mean, Shaq shot a little bit better than that, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
From the line. And you got to make one. You got to at least make one.
Yeah, absolutely. And also one thing I want to mention about Vanderbilt, his form, and I was talking to my dad about this, He's got a weird side rotation on his shot that just does not look good from the free throw line. It's just not good. So, Chris, what do you think? Who do you blame for the loss? Is it Saunders? Is it Vanderbilt? And what are the factors that went into it?
I mean, if we want to go down to like the last 50 seconds, there's a lot of people to blame if we want to put there. I mean, Beasley was one guy. When they were shooting the free throw, I heard a report. I didn't see it as much on the telecast, but Beasley was all the way down under our hoop, and Saunders was screaming at him to get up and man up with Cole Anthony, and then Vanderpool was yelling at him, "Get up there, get up there!" I don't know if he was waiting, playing free safety under the hoop, trying to. I don't know what his plan was, but then he like nonchalantly jogged up. And when Vanderbilt missed that free throw, Cole Anthony's off to the races. Beasley was running one way, Anthony the other. So he didn't. It was just that was ugly. But the whole fourth quarter the whole second half was bad. Like it's one of those things where it's easy to put it on one guy because that's what happened right at the very last minute. But when you got a $30 million max player that scores 4 points in the second half. Come on, man. Like, I can't put it on a guy making his third start, who's a known non-shooter. Like, yeah, he's not going to make those shots. I could have told you that. He might have made one, maybe best case scenario, but he's not a shooter. That's not his role. D'Lo got shut down. Our whole team got shut down. Like, it was just an all-around bad half.
Yeah, I agree. But, yeah, when it comes down to it, though, an NBA player has to make at least one free throw. Like your job is to play basketball and make shots and put the ball in the basket at its core. And it's just the fact that you can't do that. But I'm also not putting Saunders off the hook, because you got to call a timeout right away. You got to get Vanderbilt off the floor. There's no reason that you need him on the floor in that situation. Even on the defensive side, maybe call a timeout before that, get him out of there, because you should see what's happening before and be like, hey, maybe we lose some depth inside. But you can't have him out there. It's absolutely unexcusable. And I don't know if you guys remember, who was the guy that passed him the ball?
He got the rebound.
Oh, he did? Oh, he did get the okay. I thought someone passed him the ball.
He was completely out of position, mind you, and the rebound came to him. But that's a whole nother story. Him and Nas both dove at the roll man and left Gordon completely wide open because they misread the D. But that's another story.
And
so before we move on to a new topic, I just wanted to chime in real quick. So we were, like Chris was saying, we were up 20 at the half, I believe. And I remember looking at I was actually at work at this time, but I remember looking up and seeing that we were up 10 with like 2 minutes and 34 seconds. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a 24-second shot clock, and we're going to possess the ball 4 times at least before they get a chance to gain on our ground. Now, 4 times 24, if you use the clock to your advantage, you're looking at around 2 minutes. So you're already in a free throw situation, a free throw battle, if you use the clock to your advantage. And this is, like I coached at many different levels before I had kids, but that's one of those things that, like, you look back at and you say, why are we not using the clock in that situation? And it brings me up to something that I'm sure we'll talk about later, but like, we just fall in love with the 3-point. We fall in love with shooting the 3 no matter what the score is. And like, there's a point in time where, like, you're up by 10 with 2 minutes and 34 seconds left. You need to be driving to the hole. If it doesn't work, you might get to the free throw line. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think is absolutely on Saunders.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And I mean, we are trying to be a 3-and-D style team, but I think the problem is we don't have the shooters to do that. Like, particularly, okay, maybe Beasley, D'Lo, they can shoot, right? But who else can shoot on this team? Like, honestly, like, Nas can hit an occasional 3 here and there, but Jared Culver can't shoot. Edwards, as we've seen, can't really shoot. Maybe he can get the mid-range game going, but Wancho hasn't been that great from 3. Maybe he'll come around. Obviously, he's been out. We know for sure Rubio can't shoot. That 100%. Like, I cringe every time he shoots the ball. Like we're at that point. So
here's the deal. We are a 3-and-D team, and here's our wings. Anthony Edwards, before today, which I don't think it got any better, is shooting 27% from 3. Jared Culver is shooting 22% from 3. Rubio is shooting 23% from 3. Josh Okogie is shooting 16% from 3. McLaughlin, who's been playing 17 minutes a game when he plays because he's on a 2-way, he's shooting 25% from 3.
Jeez.
I mean, you can't be a 3-and-D team. You can't be a team that shoots 3s and layups when you can't shoot 3s.
Right.
I mean, so this is also a Rosas problem. I mean, these are the guys that you put on this team. These are the guys that you've put a stake in. Like Okogie, you didn't draft, but you went out of your way to keep him and nobody else. Okogie is a brilliant defender. He's really good, but he's equally as bad on offense. He has absolutely no worth on offense. If he's not passing up an open 3 for a drive, he's passing up an open layup for a kick out because he's just terrified to put the shot up towards the rim.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch.
It is. So that's why I try to watch other teams and be like, See, this is what happens when I watch, like, so for example, right now in the studio that I'm in, I'm watching Phoenix and Denver, and I keep seeing all these guys off the bench being like, man, if we just had him, man, if we just had him, man, like last night I was watching the Pelicans, and they have 3 or 4 guys off the bench that can all shoot. Like, if we just had one of those guys, we'd have a much better chance at being successful, but we just don't. We just don't right now, and man, yeah, like you said, I think some of the heat needs to go on Rosas as well. Like we've all been saying time and time again that this is not a finished product, but right. Are we even close to a finished product? Like that's the thing. Like, so my friends would ask me, they would make fun of, they knew I was a Timberwolves fan. They would be like, oh, you're still supporting that team, blah, blah, blah. They're doing bad this year, last year. And I was like, just wait till next year, because I think Rosas has a plan. I think he's putting something together. And then they come out the first 2 games, and it's, yeah, okay, they have something together. And then everything just falls apart when Cat goes out. Like, it's easy to say, like, oh, we just need Cat back, but it's got to be more than that. We still don't have good shooters, and as you were saying, those spots are just ridiculous in some spots. So one guy who's not playing well, and I hate to be negative like all the time on this thing, but it's hard to talk positive with the Timberwolves. But Anthony Edwards, another bad game tonight, only 5 points. Man, like what do we do? What do we do with Anthony Edwards? Do we just keep letting him shoot and jack up shots and hope that some go in? Or what do you think is the plan with Anthony Edwards? And let's start with you, Chris.
So for the last couple, I even think maybe I've said this on podcasts. If not, I've thought it. He's been there's very few players that I've ever seen in a Timberwolves jersey that can get to the rim as easily as him. I mean, he literally gets to the rim on anybody at will. The problem is the first, 8 games, 9, 10 games, he's been trying to get the foul called, going with his double clutch. I don't know if it's because, he's first time in the NBA, he's not used to seeing guys this big. I don't know if we're beating it into him that getting to the free throw line is, one of the most important things of our offense, or what, but he's trying to get these foul calls, and it's not working. He's not getting any calls, and truthfully, he's getting fouled a lot of the time, but he's a rookie, and he hasn't earned it yet. So I've been wanting him to just take it hard. And I've been saying he's huge. He's a huge human being, giant vertical, just dunk on people. Put every big man on notice. Like, that's how you get a name for yourself. That's how you get credit with the refs. That's how you get these bigs to kind of take a step back and not come at you so hard. Dunk on 3 or 4 of them. And last game, he did that on Vucevic, whatever, I can't say his name.
Vucevic.
He got up. He got up before he could jump and slammed it on him. And then tonight, he came out, I don't know if you saw that, but the first 2 drives he took were huge, massive dunks that he missed. But you know what? The first one he missed off the rim, and it should have been a dunk. And I bet you if he would have put that down, it might have been a whole different ball game. But the second one, he was so high, and it made me think this is what you need to do. Like, do this more. And I don't care that he missed him. I don't care that this guy is taking it to the rim hard and missing all these layups. I don't care that he's missing these step backs and missing these open threes, truthfully, at all. He's getting the shot whenever he wants. He's getting the defender on his back when he wants. The shots aren't falling. I can live with shots not falling if you can create a shot for yourself whenever you want. We have no one on this team other than D'Lo that can create his own shot. I would way rather have a guy go 0 for 12, getting 12 open shots by his own creation, than a guy like Culver or Okogie passing up on 12 open shots and going 1 for 3 on tip-in little layups at the hoop. Like, that's not going to bring you to the future. If we're looking for a guy who's going to be a future star, I want to see a guy that gets to the rim 6 times a game and, gets open off his own dribble moves to get some open jumpers, open threes, even if they're not falling 12 games into his NBA career.
Mm-hmm. And Jared, do you agree, or do you want to see? Do you think that you want to see more from Anthony Edwards? What do you think of Edwards at this point?
So I have a little bit of a different stance on Edwards. Like Chris was saying, like he and we kind of talked about this earlier, but he's been hyper inefficient. Like he's a great player that I wouldn't say great, but like he's super raw. Like he can go to the hole, he can shoot the ball. Like if you look at some of the game logs, he's shooting anywhere from 12 to 18 times a game off the bench. And that's kind of what you want to see out of a rookie. You want to see him get the volume and the usage and see what he is. But if I'm Saunders and Rosas right now with Cat out, why can't we start Edwards at the 3 and see if that isn't a more comfortable role for him to be around more talent and move Okogie to the bench? And I'm a huge Okogie guy because I love that he plays defense. He doesn't do a whole lot else offensively. But I think that if we can move Edwards to the 3 and put him in a starting role, maybe he just becomes more comfortable and he's around more talent. Because right now, it's off the bench, it's Rubio and it's Edwards. And Rubio isn't the greatest offensive skill set in the world. Like he can distribute, but outside of that, it's pretty much the Anthony Edwards show off the bench, and it isn't working. So why not try and plug him in at the 3?
Yeah, no,
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly now, like at this point, like maybe like when we were 2-5, maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe we can still make a run at this, and maybe we don't want to mess up chemistry or something. But at this point, what are we now? 3-10? Is it 3-10 or 3-11? Like, yeah, throw him in and see what happens at least. Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. What do you have to lose at this point besides more games? And who cares? You're going to lose.
The only problem is right now our bench that we're rolling out there when we go like a 5-man bench roll is like Rubio, Okogie, Culver, Vanderbilt, and Nas. Who's scoring there?
Yeah.
Tonight, I thought the most offensively skilled player was Edwards and not Edwards, Layman. And I'm not a Layman guy, so I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, we're just not good enough. like as much as you can psychoanalyze stuff, we don't have enough shooters and we don't have enough firepower off the. I mean, I know we didn't have him the last game, but imagine having Danilo Gallinari off the bench like Atlanta had tonight. Like, just imagine having someone of that caliber off the bench to play with the second unit that can actually score and is like a 20 points per game scorer. Like, that would be amazing.
Or their big man. Who's that big man they just drafted like 6th? I forget. Okongwu?
Yeah, Okongwu, yeah.
He played like the last 2 minutes because they've got so many bigs, they don't know what to do. That dude was like the 6th pick in the draft, was supposed to be one of the most ready, like offensive or defensive players, low post players in the draft. Dude's not even getting in the game.
Yeah.
And you can look at a team like the Jazz too, who have like Joe Ingles coming off the bench. You put Joe Ingles on this team,
yeah,
that's a great, but it's a completely different thing with this team.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Let's go. Other than Joe Ingles, I want to throw this out there. Who is, and this can be, don't say like, I don't know, like Devin Booker or something like that, but who is one guy that realistically you think the Wolves could go after and make a run at and improve this team like at the trade deadline? And let's start with you, Jared. Who is one guy the Wolves that could go after, realistically get? Like, again, we're not talking about like James Harden or something like that. Who is one guy the Wolves could go after at, say, the trade deadline and improve this team?
Yeah, so I'm going to list out a player, and I'll leave the one for Chris because I know we've had a talking point before this that didn't get recorded. And I thought it was super good. But the player that I would be willing to target is like a Larry Nance, because he fits the mold. Like, he can pass the ball, he can shoot the ball on occasion, but he's not relying on his 3-point shot. And I feel like that's what the Timberwolves have run into a problem with, is they get people that like Juancho. Like, if Juancho isn't hitting threes, he's worthless to this team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that, I feel like that's a big problem. You know, if you get a guy like Nance that can rebound the ball, he can score in the paint, he can also shoot threes on occasion, but it's not his first go-to thing. I think Nance is a really good fit on this team. The problem is we are 3-11, and if we are 3-11, what are we willing to mortgage to get a power forward that is sustainable on this team? Mm-hmm. And that's my biggest issue right now. I know a name like PJ Tucker has been thrown around in the community and on the last podcast, but I'm in the sense right now, we're 3-11. Like, what are we willing to mortgage to get a power forward on a 3-11 team?
My answer to that is Jarrett Culver, because I am done. Like, I know he had 15 points tonight. I don't see any potential in Jarrett Culver. And to be honest with you, I don't know what another team would see in Jarrett Culver other than, hey, he's a young guy. But other than that, like, can we label him a bust yet? Maybe we'll talk about that in another show. But let's go with you, Chris. Who do you think's one guy that the Wolves could realistically make a run at?
Well, I love the Larry Nance take. Fun fact on him: he's shooting 44% from three this year on 4 3-pointers a game. So I mean, the dude is shooting. He's also, I think, like, defensive ratings, advanced stats are a little bit skewed because they're tricky, and I think Cleveland's like the number 1 defensive team, so that might be skewed in his favor. But defensively, I think he's like the 4th best player in some defensive ratings in the NBA right now. I mean, the guy can play, and he fits our perfect mold. But the guy that I want, which is a broken record for me, is Aaron Gordon. And we got to see him live in direct just last game. This guy is exactly what we need. And the funny thing is, Larry Nance and Aaron Gordon are both players that Rosas has went after already or tried to get. And knowing Rosas, well, the little we know of him, he usually goes back and tries to get those guys again. So I think both those guys will be up in conversation soon. But, I mean, Aaron Gordon is the type of guy that is on a contract that gets cheaper and cheaper every year. I think right now, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think he's making $17 million now. Next year it's 16, and like the year after that it's 15 or something like that. It goes down by $1 million each year, which is huge for a team like us that's tight on the cap. And it also so happens to match up perfectly with Ricky Rubio. But Gordon is the guy that, you know, can bang with the big men down low. You know, he's a big, strong guy. He's a guy that can play in the dunker spot. He's a guy that can catch the lobs off the pick and roll. He can hit a spot up three. I think his 3-point percentage isn't great, but a lot of them are, you know, he's playing out of his role in Orlando, but his spot up threes are pretty solid. But more importantly, he can switch pick and rolls. He can defend wings. I mean, he literally won the game for the Magic in my mind. In the second half, we were up by 20 in the first half. In the second half, they switched and they put Aaron Gordon not only defensively on D'Lo, which completely shut him down, but they put him offensively as their point guard. In the last 3 games, he's averaging like 9 assists a game, including tonight. He put up almost a triple-double. He can be a secondary play creator. He's a big, strong kid who can get you 9 boards a game. He can get you 15, 16 points a game. He's not going to be a volume shooter. He just fits everything we need. And almost more importantly, he isn't what the Magic need. I mean, they've got Jonathan Isaac right now. They've got him locked up long term. I'm not going to say his name again. I keep messing it up. They got the big center.
Nikola Vucevic.
That's the man. They got him locked up long term. So that's their power forward and center. They're not looking to pay Gordon after next year a big contract. So they're going to try to move him. And what do they need? They just lost their point guard. They need a point guard. I mean, we saw it. Cole Anthony is like, he's raw at the point guard. He's a scorer, but he can't really play point. I mean, there's a reason that you've got your power forward playing point guard for full halves of the game. We send him Rubio. We send him Culver. Who would want Culver? Good question. I would say nobody. But another question is who would want Markelle Fultz? I would say nobody. Who took him? Orlando. Who's turned Markelle Fultz into a really solid NBA player? Orlando. Maybe they're thinking we can do the same thing with Culver. Broken jump shot. But he's supposed to be, have all this world of upside. Maybe they see some value in that. We throw him a first-round pick. Maybe we can make something happen. That's the guy I want. That's the guy that I think can, solidify what we're doing. He can play off the ball. He can run. He can grab the rebound and get out and run in transition. Like, that's what Rosas wants.
Yeah,
that's what Rosas might get.
Yeah, and so this is going to be kind of a cop-out, but my answer to the question of who should we go get, anyone who can shoot. Like, honestly, anybody who can put the ball in the basket is someone that I want on this team. I don't know specifically who, but, I mean, the shooting off the bench. I mean, look at from three-point land tonight, 25%. Nice. Good job.
And like you guys were just saying, like, so I kind of want to break down the Cavaliers because I feel like that's a team that's in sell mode as Drummond wants out, and Drummond's probably going to get out because they're only playing him 25 to 28 minutes a game and for a guy like Drummond, that just isn't his mold. Like, he needs to play 35 minutes a game. Drummond's a star in this league, and they are in sell mode, and they've made it real clear that they are in sell mode. They just beat the Nets, who are the favorite in the East. They beat the Nets twice in the last, and they are probably the favorites in the East, in my opinion. That's a different topic, but. So if you get into the Cavaliers, they have Sexton and they have Garland, and they are both super young, but they are also playing 40 plus minutes a game, both of them. So if you're looking to move a guy like Rubio, who is also the guy I had in mind to move, when we got Rubio, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be honest, because the contract was big. But if you're looking to trade somebody, he's the guy you trade. Mm-hmm. And I know we're disappointed with Culver, and he's tied to a deal like that. But I also think that if you move a guy like Rubio to a team that needs a point guard, like the Magic, who are playing good, and the Cavaliers, who are shockingly playing pretty good, that is a guy that you can tie in a contract situation to solidify a backup role. Like when I look at the Cavaliers, they're playing guys like Dante Exum when he's not hurt. Right. Who is Dante Exum? I know who he is because I'm a basketball nerd, but a lot of people don't know who he is, and he's playing 32 minutes a game off the bench or starting in situations where Sexton and Garland are not active. So I think that makes sense for the Cavaliers when I talk about Nance, is adding a guy like Rubio and maybe packaging Culver to make it work. Same situation as Chris was talking about with the Magic being with just Cole Anthony now, because Michael Carter-Williams is also hurt, which doesn't help their backup role. And Cole Anthony's a rookie. He's running the show because you have Markelle Fultz out for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Here's something that I was thinking about. So I was watching the Boston game, and I was watching Jeff Teague out there, and he was playing pretty well. Like, I was looking at his stats; they're relatively the same as Ricky Rubio this year, and his contract is a lot less. So let me throw this out, and this can be quick too if you guys want. Who would you rather have right now? Ricky Rubio on a $17 million deal, or Jeff Teague at 32 with a $1.5 million deal? Let's start with you, Jared.
It's without a question, it's Jeff Teague just because of the money. I'm not a Jeff Teague guy. He dribbles too much, but he's at the end of the day, he's still decently efficient, but he dribbles way too much on the perimeter. Like if you ever watch a game where Jeff Teague is playing point guard and he's the starting point guard, that shot clock's hitting 14 before the ball gets moved. Like Jeff Teague dribbles way too much, but I'd still take him over Rubio right now just based on the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I will say is Jeff Teague is kind of score oriented, and like Rubio can't score. So we need someone off the bench who can score. And I think I know what you're going to say about this, Chris, but who would you rather have, Rubio or Teague right now?
Well, I'll put my GM hat on a little bit here, but before I do that, I'm going to let you know that Jeff Teague this year his effective field goal percentage is 39% for a score first point guard. Rubio's is 42%.
Okay.
Just want to put that up there. So Teague's going for 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 7 points on about 20 minutes. Rubio's playing 24 minutes. He's going for 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 6 points. So, yeah, like you said, pretty similar. Rubio obviously more assists. But so, I mean, it comes down to money. So if we had, let's say we had a $2 million Jeff Teague instead of a $17 million Ricky Rubio, and we're trying to do one of those last 2 trades we're talking about. How do you get a $17 million Aaron Gordon when you don't have a $17 million person to trade? I'll help you out with that. You don't. And that's the exact reason I think we got Ricky Rubio. That's why we traded James Johnson for another year of a $17 million contract, because his contract is worth more than his playability. We need, if we're going to shoot for stars, if we're going to look for a star to get, you have to match salary. That's the only way you can do NBA trades unless you're under the cap. And with our 2 guys maxed out, that's never going to happen. So we need that $17 million cap piece. We need it. Unless you're going to put 3, $6 million guys together, and then, that you're sending 3 guys out, they're going to have to send 3 guys. It just doesn't work. So, I mean, I would take a $17 million, bag of flour over Jeff Teague for $2 million, because that $17 million added to a rookie that might have value and a first-round pick can get you a $17, $18, $19 million player. Jeff Teague added to a rookie and a first-round pick literally can't get you more than like a $6 million player just by the rules of the NBA.
Okay, yeah,
that's a great.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's why Chris is so good on the show, is because like I love to ramble and talk about what I think can happen and what can happen, but Chris is really good at matching salaries and what can actually make stuff work in a future trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I saw you posted. I put up a poll and I saw you answer it. I kind of wanted to get your reasoning behind that. And after hearing it, yeah, I think that sounds pretty sound. But so moving forward, obviously, I mean, I don't think there's any way Jeff Teague sniffs a Minnesota uniform. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. I don't think it's in the cards. But one guy that played pretty well against Orlando was Jaden McDaniels, who I think if there's one good thing to come out of that was that seeing Jaden McDaniels hit some threes and play pretty well. And let's start with you, Chris. What did you think of Jaden McDaniels' play tonight and then also against the Magic?
So I've been a fan of. I'll straighten this out. I was not a super high fan of him in the draft. I liked him. He seemed to have crazy upside, but he also seemed to be, I mean, as much as I could watch of him, have almost zero basketball IQ. I think in college he had like 3 turnovers to every assist or something like that. Just looked like a greedy, me first type basketball player. So I was down on him in the draft. But ever since I started watching this guy play for us, and he was always just an offensive player. That's all he was in college, people said. That dude is great. Like he he looks like a power or a small forward. I won't say power forward. I think he's a better small forward right now. He can guard anyone on the court. He was matched up on Trae Young today. They got him on a switch, and Trae gave him everything in his bag, and it didn't even phase him. It didn't even phase him, and he almost blocked his shot. It ended up forcing him into a miss. The kid is fluid. He, like I said, he's long. He can defend 1 through 4.5, maybe. He's so skinny, he really can't bang. But I mean, he's blocking shots. He's blocking bigs. He blocked Capella today. When Capella drove right past Culver, it looked like an easy dunk. He comes over, blocks that shot. He looks like he should be the backup small forward. Well, I guess with our power forward issue, he should probably be the backup power forward. But maybe if we ever get one, I would like to see him as our backup. I mean, in a perfect world, 2 years from now, Edwards and McDaniels are going to be, if not both starting, they're both going to be playing major minutes at the one at the 3 and one at the 4.
Chris, would you be okay with McDaniels playing a backup to Okogie for defensive purposes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would. That's what I was thinking. He'd be a great backup small forward right now. I mean, our roles are so. I mean, I don't really care who starts or backs up. I mean, I would think you would need McDaniels in there more than Okogie on the second unit, just because he can provide some offense. Okogie's, like I said, is pretty worthless that way. So if you could have like a Naz Reid, I don't know who the 4 would be. Who, by the way, Naz the last couple games is still one of the most impressive players on the team. I'm a huge Naz guy. I think in 3 years that guy's going to be a high quality starting player, and he's on probably the best contract in the NBA. But yeah, I would love to see him out there playing with the second unit, 25 minutes a game. Let him earn his keep as much as Edwards. He was just as high of a recruit coming out of high school. The kid's a stud.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's go to you, Jared. What's your thoughts on Jaden McDaniels and his play in the past 2 games and so far in the season as well?
Yeah, so I haven't saw a ton of him. I know tonight was not a really good example. He was 2 for 9 from the field and 0 for 2 from 3. But the game before, I think he had like 12 and 8 and was 2 for 4 from 3, and that's kind of something. That's kind of something you want to see off the bench, Like I just asked Chris, like if you were gonna sub out Okogie, assuming Okogie is gonna be our starting 3, if you want to sub him out and put McDaniels there, who also plays pretty hard. You guys know that I'm a Vanderbilt guy because I love guys that play hard. And I feel like he has. But I feel like McDaniels, even though he plays a very similar role, is in the same boat. Like, the guy plays hard. He can shoot threes. He can play defense. And that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm looking for when I look at this team right now. Like, without Cat, this team is totally different to me. Like, with Cat, this team is completely different. With Cat playing, I want Okogie at the 3. I want a guy that plays defense. Without Cat, I want a guy that plays hard. Like Beasley, we talked about it earlier. Beasley played hard tonight, super hard in the first 3 quarters, almost too hard. But that's what I want to see. Like, this team is 3-11. Like, we can't pretend that this team is any better than 3-11. They are 3-11. It is what it is. They are 3-1 with Cat. So when this team gets Cat back, which I presume will be next week, he was out with COVID, and so Rubio played tonight, and Rubio and Juancho were out with COVID at the same time. Juancho didn't play tonight, but Rubio did. So the COVID protocols are kind of in the same boat. But next week, Cat should be playing. I seem like midweek, like Wednesday or Thursday. If they play Wednesday or Thursday, Cat should be back. But this team is totally different with that guy in there. Like, so when I was looking at some stats tonight, so we're 19th in the league defensively against a 3-point position. So So 3-pointers, we're 19th in the league. Points in the paint, we are 29th. 53 points in the paint allowed per game. And Capella has absolutely excelled in the last 2 games against us. He has absolutely owned us. Capella had a 3-point or point, rebound, and triple-double against us and triple-double against us tonight, which was insane. So we get owned in the paint when Cat's not there. So that's my biggest take is we need Cat back. And Cat's not a superior defender, but when you talk about defense and you kind of look at the psychometrics about it, like without Cat, we're gonna lose by 20 points a game. Like Chris said earlier, like we're just gonna lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, when it really just comes down to it, we need our leader, we need our alpha male back, and you'd like to think that D'Lo can be more of an alpha male when he's out there, considering he's being paid like one. I mean, he's being paid a max contract. And don't get me wrong, I love watching D'Angelo Russell play, but he's just not cutting it right now. He had 9 points tonight. Yes, I know that it was a blowout, obviously, but 19 points before that, but only 4 in the second half. So, yeah, it's disappointing. A lot of things are disappointing about this team. So let's kind of take it in another direction, kind of something new that we're doing here. Let's talk a little fantasy basketball for you guys who play fantasy basketball. I haven't in a long time, but I would like to get back into it. And Jared is a little bit of a he writes for. Actually, I'll let you explain it. Who do you write for, and what's kind of your background with fantasy basketball?
Yeah, so I write for goingfor2.com. That's kind of my staple of what I do. I do a lot of podcast stuff for them, which is kind of why I got invited on this show, is because you guys knew that I did podcasts. I'm a Wolves fans, so I write for goingfor2.com. Great information out there. We put out a NBA fantasy spreadsheet every single day, so if you can look at it and you can know who to start and who to sit. And I do a lot of daily fantasy stuff with DraftKings and FanDuel as well. So, I write articles for them daily on Wednesday. If you guys are interested in checking that out, you can check out the goingfor2.com webpage. You can also follow me on Twitter at the Yeti Express. That's my handle for Twitter. And I do a lot of fantasy stuff. So. But talking about fantasy is something that I've loved to do for as long as I've pretty much been alive. I started playing fantasy football when I was 7 years old, so I'm a big fantasy guru.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess kind of talking about it. Who are you looking at? Let's say the next week that you think some people should maybe pick up in their leagues or play or what are you looking at fantasy wise?
So in Wolves particular, I think J-Mac can be an ad if we move Rubio, just solely on the fact that he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes, and he's probably available on most rosters. It's not somebody that I've added yet, but in deeper leagues, you can absolutely add J-Mac. Other Timberwolves players that might be available, you could look at a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, who's now playing over 25 minutes a game. And I think his role might be secure at the power forward position, even when Cat comes back. That's a guy that I am super high on right now. Other guys that I like, the Knicks are so hard with Tibbs, and we know with Tibbs that Tibbs runs his starters into the ground. But if you're looking deeper, a guy like Emmanuel Quickly, who is a rookie who has played very well in the minutes that he's received this year, that's a guy that I've liked for a younger player who has kind of excelled in his role. If you're looking at waiver wires. I haven't seen a whole lot other that I really like. A guy like Bogdag Bogdanovich.
You'll get it.
Bogdag Bogdanovich from the Jazz have been available in many of my leagues, and that's a guy that I've picked up recently. He shoots the three well. He plays 32 minutes a game. He's out there on the floor. People forget like people get lost in the Jazz. Like the Jazz are a team that plays their starters quite a bit, but guys like Royce O'Neal and Joe Ingles, the guy I mentioned earlier, is coming back from injury. So you could see Bogdanovich start and play, 30 plus minutes a game, shoots the three well, gets rebounds. That's the guy that I've added in most of my leagues recently.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and we'll come back to you throughout the different podcasts for different tidbits. And yeah, like you said, I don't really know fantasy as well as other guys, so it's great to have someone who knows it pretty well and can give some advice to our listeners. So we'll take a look at the week coming up for the Timberwolves. So we got the Pelicans tomorrow, so Saturday. I don't know. I mean, I want to say we'll be competitive in that one, but who knows? Then we got.
Could you imagine what's going to happen in the post with Adams and Zion?
Yeah,
just beating up on our baby post players.
That's like I said here, 53 points a game in the post. What do you think Zion's going to do? Probably dominate us.
Now, here's something interesting. So after that, honestly, I want to say that we have a chance against the Pelicans, but I think we can put that up as a loss probably. I mean, we don't play well against the Pelicans lately anyway. But then something interesting that I was thinking about. Do you think that, so like we've been saying, Anthony Edwards has been struggling lately, and a lot of people are saying, oh, we should have gone with Wiseman, we should have gone with LaMelo. So we have 2 against the Warriors coming up on Monday and Wednesday. I got to feel like Anthony Edwards might have something up his sleeve to show people that, hey, you made the right decision drafting me. I wonder if that's the way he thinks. But yeah, 2 against the Warriors. Of course, we get Wiggins back, or we see Wiggins, who has been playing a lot better. Of course, he leaves us and plays a lot better. But apparently he's been playing good defense. Who knew? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just looking at those games coming up, and I pulled up the COVID rules for the NBA, and it says any player who tests positive, even if asymptomatic, will not be allowed to exercise for a minimum of 10 days, and then must be monitored in individual workouts for an additional 2 days. So I believe if I did the math right, after that 12 days, that would bring us to the 26th. So Cat would miss the first Warriors game and maybe be able to play in that second Warriors game. I bet you Edwards has got something. He's definitely going to try. I mean, like you said, I wonder if that's how he thinks. I can almost guarantee that's how he thinks. Like that kid has got the confidence. He's got the swagger. He's going to try as hard as he can. If it works, we'll see. But he's definitely going to give a full effort against Wiseman.
Yeah,
and I know that we've been kind of critical of Saunders lately, but I'll ask you this, Chris. Like, if that's the case, and we believe that's the case, I think all 3 of us would agree with that take. Why not start Edwards in that game?
So I think the only reason that we're not starting Edwards is because he had 2 weeks of training camp and he didn't play, a full college basketball season. And, we've got enough offense right now as our perceived starters when Cat's healthy. I think it's time to say, well, Edwards isn't this spark of offense off the bench like we hoped him to be. Let's give it a shot. I mean, he's the future. I would start him. If not for any other reason. I would start him just to go up against Wiseman, just so he can have, a big dog moment. Like, you got to be in your players' back. And one of the greatest things I saw Saunders do today was when Edwards took it hard and didn't get a foul called again, Saunders flipped out and got a technical. And it was good to see because I know that that's been bothering Edwards, that he doesn't get any calls when he drives. It was good to see the coach stand up for his player and be on his side. I would love to see it. Let's start him. Why not? What do we got to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll say this as a former coach, like if you're not going to defend your players, you might as well not coach. Like that is a huge thing. Like I've had coaches that have coached me when I played basketball. Like if you ain't going to defend me when something goes wrong, I'm going to lose respect for you. And I've had every single coach that has ever coached me that when something goes wrong, they were there to defend me, and that gave more confidence in me to like move on with the rest of the game, even if it was a one-shot free throw.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing that I just thought of this right now, so I'm going to bring it up. The only good thing with having Saunders right now is that you don't hear Tom Thibodeau's low-pitched scream for the entire game anymore. Right. Like, do you guys remember that? Like when you just heard Tibbs for the entire game just yelling the entire time?
You know what's crazy about Tibbs is like the Knicks went from polar opposites. They had Fizdale as a coach who would play everybody 20 minutes a game and was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to keep my job. Then he got fired and Tibbs plays everybody 40 minutes a game, which is the polar opposite of what's going on in the NBA. But the Knicks I think they won tonight. I know they won tonight, but I think they're like 8-8 or
yeah,
8 now.
It's working. Yeah.
Give it time.
I wouldn't be surprised if the season ending tonight, if they were in the playoffs. Let me take a look.
I think they are, but
yeah, they're
like the 6th seed.
Yeah, they're the 8th seed, and look at who's at number 9, Zach LaVine and the Bulls. Man, it's hard. It's hard to see Zach LaVine playing well, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, what could have been.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I think that's all the time we have for this week. Hopefully the Wolves, I don't know, hopefully Towns comes back, and hopefully I guess that's the one thing to look forward to this week. Like I said, I don't think we're going to beat New Orleans, but look, Wiseman versus Edwards. And one of the game is on primetime, so Wednesday nights.
Which one is that? Is that the 27th?
That's the yes, that's the 27th. That's the Wednesday night game, I believe. Yeah, the Wednesday night game.
That might be the game that Cat can come back. And an interesting thing, fun fact, D'Angelo Russell and Cat have never played 3 games together in a row.
Wow.
One thing I'll add to that is James Wiseman. His biggest downfall has been foul trouble. If Cat can play, Wiseman might be a non-factor in that game.
Yeah.
He's a non-factor anyways. He's not really doing that much. I mean, he catches some rolls from Curry when he gives him some wide open rolls. He gets a couple wide open threes, but he's been a non-factor on defense. They're subbing him out. They close the game with him not on the court. I mean, all the Wolves fans that are champion Wiseman are just following the national media, and they're not watching the games. He might be great. I mean, he's a huge prospect. He's a monster player with all the athletic ability, but he's not doing really anything right now.
And a team like the Warriors that literally doesn't have a center besides him, he's playing 20 to 25 minutes. If he gets in foul trouble, he's playing 10 to 15 minutes, which is a big difference, when you're talking about a young guy.
Yeah, looking at his stats right now, 11 points per game, looking like 6 rebounds for their big center. That's not great. And minutes per game, about 21. So, yeah, not necessarily what you want out of, what was he? Was he 2? No, he went 3. He went 2 or 3? He was 2? Okay. So, yeah. So this week, also, I should mention, I just saw this on the Nuggets game. Technically, 2 primetime games in a row because the Monday night game is on NBA TV. So, yeah. So I personally don't have NBA TV, so I'll be watching on FSN. But yeah. So hey, it better turn this thing around on primetime network TV. I mean, why not?
Let's do it.
So that is tonight's episode. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And this has been the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast.